Okay, so today we're going to do square roots, not plant roots, in our lesson today. And we're just going to remind you about square roots. We want to remember that these are perfect squares. Perfect squares means the number times itself equals that. So 1 times 1 is 1. So that's the square root of 1 is 1. 2 times 2 is 4. So the square root of 4 is 2. 3 times 3 is 9, so the square root of 9 is 3. Hopefully you could guess the next ones here. Do this one, this one, this one, this one. Do the next 4 in your notes. Here we have plus or minus, okay? And really, our answer here for the square root of 1 should be plus or minus 1. The reason being 1 times 1 equals 1. So the square root of 1 is 1. However, what is negative 1 times negative 1? That would give you 1 as well. So really the answer could be 1 or negative 1. And if you bring up your calculator here and you think about it, if you have 1 squared, that will give you 1. If you have negative 1 squared, that will give you 1 as well. However, I want you to pay attention to this. If I do negative 1 squared, I get negative 1. And you have to be real careful with this, because when you have negative 1 squared, that means negative 1 times negative 1. If you have negative on the outside and then 1 squared, that means you're going to do 1 times 1 and then apply the negative afterwards. So 1 times 1 is 1, and that becomes negative 1. So you have to be real careful with the parentheses in this. So the square root of 4 should be plus or minus 2. Plus or minus means it's 2 or negative 2, because 2 times 2 is 4, and negative 2 times negative 2 is 4 as well. Here we have a box. So again, we want to find the area. The reason why we call something the square of something is because it's the area of a square. So if you count this up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is a 7 by 7. And 7 squared gives us an area of 49. So the area of this box is 49. 7 squared, square. That's why, because squares have the same length. However, if you look here, you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is negative 9. And here, if we count over to here, that's negative 9 as well. And negative 9 times negative 9 is a positive 81, because you can't have a negative area here. Here is my Batman box. It has a square, and one of its lengths is 7.25 centimeters. Please find the area of this box in your notes. Pause and do it. Here we have some more boxes. We're going to skip that. And again, here we are given the area instead of the length and width. And if you notice on your calculator, you have the square root and the square. And the reason they're right there is because they're opposites of each other, or inverses. Just like plus and minus undo each other and multiply and divide undo each other, the square root and the square are inverses, or they will undo each other. So if I don't know the length and width, but I know the area, I can do the square root of 49, because that will tell me what number times itself, and it has to be times itself because these lengths are the same, will give me that. So if you do the square root of 49, that will tell me 7. So this is 7 and this is 7. Please find the area of this and see if you can figure out this question down here. If our classroom were a square, it would be 25 feet wide and 20 feet long. How many squares are needed to tile the floor? Give that a whirl. Also, these kinds of problems work. The square root of 1 is 1, and then we apply the negative. It becomes negative 1. However, if you look at your calculator, let's say we do this. We have negative square root of 169 here. That gives you negative 13, excuse me. However, if I do the square root of negative 169, I get an error message. I want you in your notes to write why you think The negative can be on the outside, but we get an error message when the negative's on the inside. Like this is like having it right here. Why can we not do this, but we could do this? So write a sentence about why you think that matters. We have order of operations, which we're going to do later. The next thing I want to work with is simplifying square roots. And these are not perfect squares. You know, if you take the square root of 40, you get some real long number. Because remember, the square root is one number times itself to equal that. And here we even just round. This isn't even the full number. If you were to square this, we wouldn't get 40. So it keeps going. So 40 is not a perfect square. However, we can simplify it. And by simplifying it, we think, what perfect squares can we multiply to get 40? I can do the square root of 4 times the square root of 10. The square root of 4 times the square root of 10 is 40. However, 4 is a perfect square. 10 is not. So to simplify this, we know the square root of 4 is 2. So I got the whole number 2. And then the 10 stays the square root of 10 because that can't simplify into perfect squares. Okay? And we have the same thing with 80 here. And we have the same thing with 75. For 80, again, we can say the square root of 4 times the square root of 20, right? So I know that the square root of 4 is the answer of 2. 20 is not a perfect square, but if I multiply it again, the square root of 4 times the square root of 5, we have another perfect square. 4 again, the square root of 4 is 2. So when I write my answer here, I have 2 times 2, which is 4. So I have the whole number 4 and the square root of 5 left. So the square root of 80 can be simplified down to 4 square root of 5. You guys try 75 here. Square root of 75. See if you can't simplify it. And this is homage to our favorite superhero. Believe it or not, I used to watch this when I was a kid.